Alright, we're back with another Discord League stream for you guys. This time it's the Season 5 Cup semifinals with the Raphelos on Crane and SlyNight on Crane. So a mirror match for you guys today. Both of these players having pretty cool runs up to this point. Raphelos usually plays, I think, Scorpion more often than not. Um, Coming in with a good seed, number 8 seed. Um, Beating a dragon, beating Micah, a very accomplished Crane player, Action Johnny, a regular in the Discord League, very strong crab player. Ending Zelo is back, who had a bit of a power first run through the bracket, defeating Kingsley, myself, and Fiea, an accomplished Crane player. Anyway, and his run ended in top 8 versus Raphelos. SlyNight beating Bill Jr., a very, very strong player. Krytos, a strong player, and our fearless admin. Um, Lenath, a strong, SlyNight beat Joe, a very high-ranked crab player, and jokingly, a very strong crab player. So let's see if we can get into this game. So Raphelos's deck is I don't run Noble Sac, running the regular Province row, but 2 Noble Sacrifices, 2 Admit Defeats, 2 Assassinations. So he's on all of the event tech, no attachments, 2 Fury, 3 Let Go. And wow, SlyNight also on no attachments and all of the event tech. So political rival is a very good card usually in this matchup. SlyNight is up 1 political rival. Raph is up 1 censure. And SlyNight also running a Young Harrier. SlyNight up 1 policy debate. So the big thing about Raph's deck is the 3 charge. His Scorpion colors showing there. So he can flash in as many characters as SlyNight can, although he achieves it through charge, whereas SlyNight just is running more conflict characters. So I should warn you guys that we may not have full commentary for this match. If we can't find a co-commentator, I'm gonna have to duck out in a little while, but we will continue the stream for you guys for the whole. Make sure you can watch the whole match. Hopefully, we'll have an interesting start that I can contribute some insight to in this mirror match. It looks like we are having some technical difficulties. So Raph lost the coin flip going first. That matters a lot in any mirror matchup. In particular, a lot of Crane's power starts requires 8 Fate, so we will really see what he can pull off. Looks like he's fine. He's got his mulligan locked in. Raphelos, that is. So best of luck to both players. Let's see what happens here. So we're seeing some big mulligans on the Dynasty side here. It's possible we'll see a low power start, or maybe SlyNight already saw the one character he needed and just is mulliganing for holdings or other options. Okay, while they're doing mulligans, we'll take a look at the Dynasty side of their decks. So Raphelos is running 3 of Storyteller. You don't see that a lot. Um, Running 3 of Kaizen, 0 of Asami. So that's an interesting choice. I think it makes sense with the 3 charge, but otherwise I think you'd want to have Asami in most matchups. In the mirror matchup, I'm not sure which one is better, but I certainly would expect to see Asami included more often. I think 2 of Narishma is interesting with 3 charge. I would think that you'd want all 3 of your, or you'd want all of your 3 military options in Crane if you were going to run 3 charge. So your 3 military options are very light in Crane. You've got your Narishma, Hotaru, and Kaizen basically. So let's see if the Dynasty side on SlyNight is a little bit more standard, and it looks like it is. So we see a full complement of Asami and Kaizen. We see um, no Storyteller. Neither player is running Artisan, which is interesting. That can be a good tool to get favor or to pump someone up for a policy debate. Alright, so this has the potential to be a rough game for Raph. So SlyNight got 2 draws from his holdings to Raphelos getting 1 draw. And he's got a guest of honor with another guest of honor back um, in provinces. So if Raph can't break that, and there's 2-3 fate guest of honors on the board, it's going to be very hard for him to spend his cards in hand, because remember, neither player has any attachments at all. So it looks like Raph is going to try to get the guest of honor into a conflict on his own terms. If I was him, I would even consider backing out with favorable ground, but if he gets the challenger dishonored from shameful, it could be pretty bad. Um, he'll lose the voice of honor control, obviously, and his big character will be a bit neutered. Yeah, Tenorm in chat is saying that the move here is to move in, pull in the guest, move out. That definitely seems strong. He might be on the back foot to a Steward of Law who comes in with the Water Ring to restand the Guest of Honor. But hitting Fertile Fields I think is a decent start. He is ceding Fate to SlyNight, and he's a bit vulnerable to Miyamoto's Fury here. Um, but he can still execute most of his plan. Going in political does mean that he would be able to or attempt to re-honor if he hit Shameful, except that if he, yeah, he'd be able to try to do that. Yeah, so we see the no defense, which is expected. Honoring the guest of honor is pretty huge here. It means that Raph can't turn on Voice of Honor by doing something similar in return. Yeah, so the court games on the challenger gets voiced. And a court games on the challenger to dishonor. So it has to be Way of the Crane to re-honor the challenger. Going in political here, um, yeah, there were a lot of ways that court games was not going to go off, so it's really just so risky as Crane attacking with your big guy. With 4 face down provinces, there's so many permutations where it just goes awful. I guess he's deciding if he still thinks it's worth it to pull in the guest of honor, or if he would rather get an Earth Ring. Um, I don't think you can expect that SlyNight's necessarily done with this. Oh my god. Ugh. See the way the Crane attempted in a second Voice of Honor from SlyNight. So the upside is that 2 Voice of Honors are gone. Oh, but it continues to get grim. So he pulls in the guest. Easy policy debate here. Yeah, the bow from the stronghold on a challenger means you don't get another conflict. I think attacking political was a mistake. It might be slightly better with some combinations of hands if you hit the shameful. But if you hit anything else, it just opens you up to all this fuckery. And we see a rival Stewie voice Fury hand. So see, that hand is fine, but it's mostly unplayable for this turn. That's sort of a hand you'd want to see more later in the game. Yeah, I mean, Steward of Law is one of the only cards in that hand that's actually usable right now. It's one of the only cards in the hand that can turn around the turn. And it's one of the only ways that Raph can force SlyNight to use cards this turn, which he's pretty done with this turn, I think. He's in such a good position for next turn. We're just going to see the rest of the turn pass through. Very decisive for Sly in turn 1. And he's still got that Guest of Honor sitting back there, so getting 2 uses of Guest a turn at least is pretty gross. Yeah, with way the Crane Voice of Honor in hand, and the player who's going to attack into a defender who goes first, if you are planning on attacking there, I think you pre-weigh the Crane as Raphelos on that turn 1 100%. At least both players have a favorable ground now, and a guest from Raph is also potentially good, but we do see the Yoshi come down with favor. So guest Yoshi, a very powerful duo with the political favor. We do know that Raph has 2 political rivals, so that's a lot of skill on defense and a lot of covert, but I think the covert is less relevant at this stage in the game, and the defense just might not be enough against Yoshi Guest. 4 honoring effects in deck for Sly still should be the same for Raph. Both players bid 5. That's totally fine, I think. Okay, so Raph on 10, definitely repping both of those rivals really hard. It's hard to attack without any small guys with Crane. You don't want to run into the shameful display here at all. All right, so the guest coming in politically is on the magic number 6 to get around a rival if only one is dropped on defense. Uh, if we see the shameful display here, it is still the best attack, I think, if you're going to make an attack. You can't drop the rival in and dishonor before the favorable ground is used, so I think you'd have to defend with the challenger if this is the shameful display. But it's the meditations, so it does make that guest leave one turn earlier, but it will take 2 cards minimum for Raph to defend. So I'm registering in the stream that Nix has called this game for Sly already. It would take a pretty monumental series of bad beats for Sly to fall behind from here. Oh my gosh, and yeah, we see the bonsai, so this is, and it's military, so yeah, this is just a break most likely. And losing your favorable ground here is bad. On the upside, we could see a rival come down to skirt around Yoshi. I think it's a mistake to not try to do anything with your hand this turn. The breaks are starting to come in. That was a bit of a strange water ring. I guess he didn't want a rival to come down on defense and then a rival attack coming back as water to stand the first rival back up, maybe? Fire is a pretty key ring in Crane vs. Crane. Getting that Yoshi buffed up is a big deal with 3 Fate, and being a 5/9 beat stick versus a Dishonored challenger is pretty gross as well. Um, it also just means this attack coming back at you, like a Void for example, kind of have to respect the Void way more. Yeah, so that was actually Mill, so yeah, no rival to defend. I don't know what the line is where Raph needs to go water back at him, uh, where the water isn't way better for your second attack, for example. It's hard to say. Yeah, because he didn't even have a ring effect to use. What did he think he was going to have there? Yeah, I mean, I guess if the challenger defends and re-honors and um, and you lose, and then the rival comes down to restand the challenger, it's a bigger threat. Raph just slamming a test of skill full cost. Sees court games admit defeat charge. I mean, like, admit defeat's a fine card here, I'd think. Charge also may be fine, but your opponent's already used mill. You can get 3 stats, I guess. So Milik at Manicured actually stacks up a bunch of fate for SlyNight, and the 5 strength with the favorable ground sitting there means that, yeah, it means that he's got a high hill to climb to break. And he is going Void. I did say that Sly had to respect this Void conflict, so let's see how he actually deals with it. Putting the guest in is a good start, right? You can't charge anymore. You can, for shame, the Doji Challenger, and it's basically over already. Yeah, and we get a policy debate on top of that possible bow afterwards. What is there to think about in a 5v1 bid? I guess you're thinking if Sly is dumb enough to bid 1 and you bid 5. No, man, that's not even good enough. What is there to think about? Is he lagging? Yeah, Yoshi could get pulled in here. Um, but Sly certainly has characters of his own. Ooh. Ooh, nasty. That is a lot of dead cards. Still only 2 rivals, taking one of them out so only one can come down. It prevents Raph from efficiently using his fate. I think that's fine. But yeah, the Censure's dead, the double Noble Sack's dead. The charges are dead this turn too. There's no more mill after this one. Yeah, I think that the story of this game might be that Raph was a bit too conservative about playing his cards out before running into SlyNight's tricks. Because he could have easily played those rivals out pre-faded and not been open to a nasty policy debate. Having 2 of 3 policy debates in the top 18 cards is not something that's 17 cards is not something that is so unlikely that you shouldn't think it could happen. I think we've all had games where we weren't playing our best and things just didn't go the way we wanted to with the cards either, and it just doesn't go very well. I think it could also be a situation where Raph is a guest as a Crane player. He doesn't full-time Crane. I think Sly plays Crane a much higher percentage of his games, and the Crane mirror is a pretty silly, dumb matchup. I think the mirror Moto's Fury is interesting in that it cost him a fate to play it at that stage in the conflict, whereas a For Shame would have saved him the money. Okay, this is just it. This is just nasty. This is just the game, most likely. Raph has no more conflict characters, so this is the last conflict of the round, so pulling in Yoshi doesn't even really accomplish anything anymore. Ew. He can play out a big guest and a big Hotaru next round, but he'll be behind on board in a pretty big way. And it's not like SlyNight won't have any fate. Alright guys, apologies, we're going to be going dark with the commentary for a little while. Alright, I'm back. Looks like I missed what was, or partially missed what was probably the most interesting turn of this game. I really think that um, for Raph, there are a couple of key things in this game that are going to make it very hard for him to come back from this position. The fact that he lost both of his political rivals without being able to use his fate in that turn before means that he doesn't have those assets available, and SlyNight does not have to respect them at all, especially after the honor totals went how they did in the previous round. He's not going to be able to reshuffle this game. He was already behind, so I think he should have been playing for a bit of a longer game. The way it stands now, where he 3-faded Hotaru and Guest of Honor, usually that would be enough. But in this situation, I think if he was going to win, he would have to stall out the game and build a board advantage later. But as it stands with only 3 fading, the way these players have been fading back and forth, I don't think he's ever going to build a board advantage from that. He's still sitting on so much extra fate. I think he should have been playing an extremely long game. But with the choices that he did make, I'm not sure it's even going to last that long. He's down 9 honor and 2 provinces, so I think it's just going to be a bit painful and probably not going to end soon, but um, we'll, in sort of a couple of turns, he's just going to be bled out. I guess Kazin is potentially an interesting card to have in such a wide board. I think it's a bit tricky to sink 6 fade into that, but I guess you've got nothing else to spend it on. Brash Pass seems fine for Sly with the number of conflict characters he has left at his disposal. Raph definitely has to respect that. Guess one thing going for Raph is that Yoshi has not been honored throughout his lifespan. I think it's 1 bid from Sly. How many cards does Raph want? Raph wants 3. That's pretty nasty. I think you take the air ring off the table now. Winning it is great, but really you just want it off the table for double Hotaru. Definitely both players, especially Sly, pretty justifiably terrified about flipping Shameful up. Neither player has found it yet, which has led to a much more fair game for the attacker than you usually see. I haven't seen any voice yet from Raph because it's been dead the whole game. If so long as Sly can keep it dead, it's a good position for him. But as soon as it goes live, his life might be a little bit trickier. Voice is less important, obviously, when Guest is on for almost every conflict, but Yeah, this is the best, safest way to scout with the risk of shameful, although an alternative option would have been to attack with the political rival and covert Hotaru just so Hotaru can't get honored, but I think that that doesn't achieve much because you're not going to win that conflict if you do hit the fertile. This attack at least demands for cards from Raph. I think it would be interesting if Raph put Shameful Display on the Stronghold, but I'd be pretty uncomfortable with the coverts that your opponent can throw at you to have a 5 strength Stronghold. It is potentially pretty good. The swings are pretty nasty, obviously. But that would put either an air or an earth or a water in the row, which for Raph would be, yeah, just be entrenched in the row. Seems unlikely. I guess in a matchup like this, if you were running Rally, you could put it in the row potentially, but then it gives a free poke. If Sly did manage to dodge Shameful, if it's under that Whisperer, that is an extra piece of run good that he really didn't need. Yeah, I think when you're down characters, bowing Challenger is a perfectly valid use of a conflict. Bowing Guest of Honor and Kazin in exchange for a Brash is certainly a good conflict. So Raph gonna get to use one of his policy debates here. That's pretty good. But before Yoshi gets used, so Sly will have secret tools at some point in this round. Doing a duel with Kazin here to get your guest back for a later conflict. It could not work after the Brash gets honored, because it would be a 4-3, but then you would have Kazin back for another conflict, which is better than nothing. Alright, admit defeat assassination. Bonsai court games for shame, let go, noble sack, rival, steward, test of skill. Okay. So with that Brash Samurai out there, that noble sack is dangerous. The rival, good choice. Both players losing rivals to policy debates left and right. We see for shame out of Raph. I think without more cards from Raph, this defense makes no sense. Yeah, Way of the Crane. Getting some trickle honor from that Savvy when it dies would be nice. At the very least, it counteracts the the honor loss from the challenger. I think Sly is happy with his winning, not gonna push it. Mm-hmm. Raph figuring out how to sequence 16 cards. It's not always easy. Well, you're not giving if you're worried about a policy debate, you're not worried about giving your opponent more info by pre-playing the rival. The edge on information is so small. That's in response to chat, saying that the downside to pre-playing the rival is a small bit of information. But I think the stats and the abilities on the rival just vastly outweigh that. Because what else is Sly gonna spend his 6 fate on in hand? He needs to make sure he holds back enough fate to play some tricks, but he's got 6, and that should be plenty. Yeah, so Kazan loses his duel to take himself home. So that is some stats for a military conflict, which are good, but it is not. It's not as good as having the rival go or the guest of honor go home, I think, in most situations. Yeah, we see the bow on the brash, which is pretty obvious. Could see a noble sacrifice here. In fact, I think we likely should. Though it would turn on voice, so he probably wants to do some setup. Although, yeah, so he can't actually do noble sack at all. Okay, so What do you do? I think you're content just punting this. Your opponent gets to pull someone in, but that doesn't leave you with nothing. What will we see? Alright, well, looks like voice is getting turned on anyway. Although, no, this is again, this is a second charge that's been used just for 2 military stats from Raph. Second time he's charged a brash samurai into a conflict that already has a participant. Still 1 skill from breaking. Yeah, Crane definitely can't leverage charge the same way that Scorpion can, or any one of the other clans for which it is a staple core card. I think, yeah, Shoot is saying that if you have a test of skill build, you have to go charge. I think it's just because you have so many events that you run out of cards that you actually want to have before you get to 40 if you don't include charge. It also gives you access to a military pump, even if it's a mediocre one in a build that isn't running any attachments. I think that's legitimate. Hopefully Crane gets a card that has 4 or more military. Every other clan has one. So turning off your own events by pulling in Guest of Honor pretty much tells Sly that this is what you're doing, that this is your conflict. So I think at some point, right, Sly is going to assassinate the savvy politician and then he can safely noble sack something. But that is if he has it. We saw he has it, right? Yeah, he has it. So maybe he's trying to get a better target. I would be looking for a better target too. But if you don't find one, maybe you use it at the end. Or you could just go ahead and noble sack now, because events are off. But I do think he'll try to set up something better. Yeah, double for shame is really good since you have to respect the noble sacrifice and the assassination. That makes it a lot harder for Raph to defend or attack. So yeah, that's super interesting actually. No way to prevent the box in the political conflict for Kazin, unless you've got a court games and you're defending. So it'll be interesting to see. I think with double for shame in hand, he might try to get even greedier than trying to kill Kazin, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, Steward of Law is good. It means you're not going to set up Noble Sack, but it makes it a lot easier to push through your attack. But Fire Ring can still help you set up Noble Sack, so it's all working out in my head. You just have to be a little extra careful about the 14 cards in your opponent's hand. Just the Steward is a little bit interesting. Which ring do you want to take off the table? He used his bonsai to defend. Well, he's the favor for the box on the Steward. If he's going to swing in, it still kind of has to be respected. Sounds like something's occurred to Sly. Okay, I think we're about to see an extremely greedy play, and I, for one, am very excited to see it. Raph has a Noble Sack in hand as well, right? From way, way before. Yeah, I think way back early on, I didn't see it. No, I don't think we know that for sure. Or we do. Yeah, we do. We do know that for sure. Both players sitting on Noble Sacrifice, making things a bit spoopy. Yeah, I think we're gonna see a really greedy Noble Sacrifice play here. I like it. Believe there's no center in SlyNight's hand, so he can just fire off the Yoshi. Being cautious of court games, I suppose. If he has his own court games, it's not so risky. Opponent has to respect admit defeat. Opponent has to respect a hell of a lot, actually. Yeah, admit defeat for shame, kill could happen. If he doesn't defend, Alright, so he's currently defending with 0, basically, because you can assassinate the Savvy and battle Kazin with the box. So let's see what, okay, all 3 is, so if Raph goes up to 3 honor tokens, I think that Sly's options become more limited. But if he's not getting attacked again this round, I think he's also fine. Could see some Kazin trickery here after Raph gets what he wants out of this conflict. I think this is going to be a very involved conflict, so let's wait and see exactly how it pans out. We do know what SlyNight has, but we won't know what 3 cards he draws, and we won't know the 14 cards in Raph's hand. We know a bunch of them, but there's a whole bunch we don't know. Man, okay, so admit defeat, assassination. We do see this court games. For shame, let go, noble sack, steward. Is this steward? Test of skill. Yeah. Alright, so voices on for Raph. That's bad news bears for Sly, I think. I think he should have probably assassinated the Savvy at the end of the previous conflict. Alright, so Kazin already dueled to send himself home, so no trickery here. So this is just an all-in for the favor. Seems fine. What do you even do now that voice is on? Man. Okay, court games is canceled. Yoshi's gonna get dishonored and killed. Maybe. It would probably take a lot of cards, but not outside the realm of possibility, I think. Yep, Sly resolves a test of skill, getting away with the crane and a test of skill probably. Think, oh, right, you can cancel it after revealing the cards. So yeah, he does cancel it. Doesn't want his opponent to get the other test of skill in the way of the crane. Smart. Although he will be able to draw those eventually. It's only got 9 cards left. Okay. 2 with or Voice of Honor's gone. So how can he bait the third one and still go ham? Can't you bait the third one just by assassination attempting? I think you can. Yeah, but you can't kill any of these without the ring effect. Okay, so he may not even have the third Voice of Honor because it's off now. But what he can't do is Noble Sack from 2 to 2 and not have it be cancelled. So, still a little bit of uncertainty. Raph's only used, or he's used 2 now. 2 for shames. Sly has 2 in hand and has used the third. I think Sly's working through how to kill one of these big guys, but I don't think the option is there. Although he did draw 3 more cards. I wonder what it could be. He's already hit his max per conflict for court games. Yeah, I don't see it. Alright, cool. This denies anyone from claiming favor. Your opponent's seen no Yoshis and or 1 Yoshi and has a bunch of fate, so you really don't want them to get it. Although your opponent can't mill themselves, so that's a silver lining. But to get to this position, Sly's used a bunch more cards. 3 less in hand and 3 less in deck. The board remains impossibly complex. Gonna see a Yoshi dupe? Nope. We do see Hotaru come down for Sly. Challengers, second player, Savvy Politician. Double Yoshi for Raph, so good thing that he denied the favor, I think. think the favorable ground on each side of the board makes this a bit more complicated. I think you want one of these other characters to Sly. It's harder to use your noble sacks if you don't buy the scout as Raph. I don't see why you wouldn't buy the scout. It's not a bunch of stats, but it's potentially useful. Yeah, he doesn't think he needs it. Wow, it's a very pushy board from Sly. If it doesn't go well for him this round, he could be in trouble. Is it time to say, nah, I don't want to lose by dishonor for Raph? Admit defeat certainly makes a solo attack from Honored Kazin a pain in the butt. I think that, yeah, this hasn't been locked in yet. The ring here is going to matter a lot. I think maybe, he doesn't really need Fate, but he might want to deny it for Sly, but he can't really effectively deny it for Sly. Yeah, so, I mean, water here could be making sense. It demands 2 blocks, and then if they don't, you bow something, like Yoshi. I still wonder, can he block the double air on the crackback? Double air seems very dangerous here. Guess we'll see. I don't blame the players for taking their time. Yeah, so we do see it finalized as a fire ring. I'm not sure the fire ring puts the pressure you want here. I guess the noble sack is real, but do you want to fire it off? Weird. I guess if things get really desperate, you can fire it off. What do you do here as SlyNight, right? So your opponent's at 3 honor. You're up 2 breaks to 1 now. Your opponent's attack is political, and they've got a billion, maybe 2 billion political skill if I count carefully. So yeah, you want to take the initiative here. If you void Hotaru, Hotaru just cracks off the noble sack on your Hotaru, so void seems less appealing here. Yeah, it just seems. Does that seem premature? I think so. You just sacrificed a 5/4 for a 0/3. Your opponent has the 1 voice left in the deck, so you just prevent cheeky play. I guess if you don't have your 3rd voice, you can shoot it off now as opposed to later. He has another noble sack in hand, interestingly. Yeah, attacking challenger seems good. You force in the honored Hotaru on defense. But the problem is, of course, the favorable ground. So let's see what actually happens here. Raph might be staging a bit of a comeback here. He's up a lot of fate, and yeah, he's up a lot of fate, and his board is going to be better next round. This is tricky. Tricky for SlyNight. You got to get something done here. He also went up to 4 honor when he noble sacked. Yeah, Fury coming down. Yeah, interesting to see Fury used so effectively this late in a game. Ugh. Sly burned their young harrier there. But he will pick up a Way of the Crane and a Court Games, which is certainly what he wanted to see there. Hands are equalized now. No for shames left from Sly, so I don't see how he dishonors anyone here to pull off his own noble sack. But, yeah, we do see the trade of the ability for the favorable ground. I think that, yeah, I mean, with that guest of honor, I think Raph will be able to defend and attack again. So I think that to continue this conflict, Sly needs exactly his third Steward of Law, which would spend his last fate. The answers from Raphelos in that case would be the second Fury. Or to just take the Void, which he does not want to do. Favorable ground would also continue the conflict for Sly. Potentially risky, of course. You might want the extra defender for the admit defeat. Double Void on SlyNight would just be so disgusting. So we do see the way the crane come down on Savvy and Yoshi. And then we move the Savvy Politician in. Yoshi in for the break. So you're not breaking the stronghold this turn if your opponent swings water back at you. So I don't know about this. I think this gives Raphelos the choice. Of how to answer this. With like a conflict character for shame combo would not protect the break. Charging the cautious scout does prevent the break. Yeah, so all 3 charges used for 2 skill. Admit defeat. Yeah, bound that guy out. Yeah, I think we're seeing the break here. The question is it enough for Sly to seal this game out this turn? His position next turn is less bad if he doesn't lose the favor and if he gets the Void Ring off on Hotaru. So yeah, this line seems mostly solid. It seems a little bit risky. Definitely tempo oriented. He knows he can't lose this round. And he knows his second attack is something that has to be respected because it's repping a lot of stats. Double rings he has to be concerned about coming back at him though is air to completely turn off honor pressure. Earth would be really high impact. Water would basically turn off his attack. So it does leave Raph with plenty of options, but I think getting the Void Ring here is pretty important for him to remove the Honored Hotaru for next round. I don't think he can face off against Hotaru and Yoshi next round. Okay, this is bit of a long pause here. But if neither player is going to call it out, we just kind of have to deal with it. But we do see the pass ultimately in the break and the discard. I could see an argument for avoiding either one, but Hotaru is going to be the winner in all cases. Okay, so this is a scary attack coming back. I think double water is the one that protects you the most. Okay. I think if he goes air here, I mean, he spent a lot of time thinking about it, so he could be safe. But I think if he goes air here, better have a good plan for the 8. You better have a good plan for the 11 political skill coming at his stronghold. And he's, on top of all of that, he's gonna risk hitting Shameful. Although I suppose the targets for SlyNight are not appealing for the Shameful hit, so it might be time to scout it out just for the impact on Miyamoto's Fury. If you attack into Manicured Gardens, you can be Furied on your Hotaru here. I believe that the proper defense here to an air attack is nothing, frankly. The 1x, so the covert would go down on the Yoshi, and then the defense would be the 4 skill Guest of Honor. It would turn off events. You do have your other Fury potentially in hand as Raphelos, so I don't know if you're actually going to take a... Okay, good. He's doing the double water. I like this a lot more. Hitting the Shameful is not perfect. It gets rid of your honor gain. Gets rid of your honor gain at the end of round if it's defended. Okay. This defense will be enough to win after Shameful. If we don't see a rather inefficient Court Games or Way of the Crane to re-honor. This one turns off the second admit defeat, or both admit defeats have been used, scratch that. There's the 1x remaining for Shame, but Hotaru is sadly not at court here. So these are the characters who will be bowed if this conflict is won by Raphelos. If you defend with both of them and the characters are in the conflict, then you can stand the Cautious Scout with your Water Ring. So it's not, well, it's still pretty wasted because there's only one political left, but it would count for the favor. Okay, interesting. Not sure just defending with Savvy Politician does much, because he can still bow, rival, and stand Cautious Scout if he wants to. I don't see what's accomplished by defending anything without anything other than both. or neither. Okay, yeah, no card play. So I think the favor is going to Raphelos this turn. I can't see how it doesn't. Well, if you double defend here, that's how Sly would get out of this turn with the favor. But I think you probably just defend with Guest of Honor and pass. I think that you can expect Sly to get those last 3 cards in his conflict deck and reshuffle, so. Okay, so Raph doesn't defend and immediately asks if he can change his defense. I think it would be fair to let him. Sly agrees to let him move someone in. So neither player can play anything except for characters, and the only player with characters left in their deck has no fate. So the 1x Steward of Law won't do shit here. So yeah, pass. And interestingly, Raph gets the favor. Which is the first time this game, and he has Yoshi out, and he has cards left in his deck. Sly ends up with a lot of not very useful honor tokens, leaving the board. The board is fairly even. Sly can go up to 2 challengers and a whisperer on his first player turn. With 12 fate, Raph can buy out his board. Really start counter pushing. But he has to be super careful because he is on Stronghold. I think this game might not be close to being over. This one is, the momentum has shifted away from the player who is on Stronghold, or shifted to him. So, yeah, this one could have quite a bit more action. Sly is just going to reshuffle, I think. I think he's going to need to decide if he thinks he's far enough ahead to keep applying honor pressure. I don't think he is. I think he just wants cards. I think if he can, if he draws 5 and his opponent draws 1, that's enough extra cards until Yoshi gets used that you might be able to push something out. The Yoshi could get noble sacked from a board like this. Players are going to take it slow, I think. How far into this one are we? So we're 1 hour 42 in. And I think this is the first time you could say that Raph is really pushing for it. But we'll see if he actually decides to push for it based on his buys. Okay, Raph goes down to 2. So Raph is the one who decided that he was able to push a more aggressive bid. Um, I personally, I think this kind of bid opens him up to being able to lose in a situation where otherwise he wouldn't really be able to. But he is on stronghold, so maybe he doesn't want to be made to look a fool, losing on the stronghold when he's got a bunch of honor held back. Um, Interesting. So both players have to play safe here, because I think both players are known to be holding on to noble sacrifices. Um, Raph is up a card in hand and will be up even further when he uses Yoshi. As far as what tools he actually has remaining to him, we're looking at 1 for shame, 1 steward of law, 1 noble sac, 1 voice of honor, 1 policy debate, um, 1 Miyamoto's Fury, which is not particularly live against SlyNight's board. Um, it's a little unfortunate that he's got 2 test of skills left. That'll burn through his last 7 cards that he's probably looking to get more value from. I think there's another Way of the Crane, another court games. Yeah. The Censure, which is live now for the first time. The Assassination, both of them are still choked in hand. They're not playable right now. Hopefully they're in deck, because he's been dealing with a lot of unplayable cards for most of the game. Double Challenger with favorable ground makes this a tricky turn for Raph. Yeah, the early game momentum was definitely on SlyNight's side, but in a Crane vs. Crane, if you don't seal it out, you give your opponent enough time to stabilize, it can turn against you big time. I think we're seeing that here, where Raph managed to turn it around quite a bit, taking a bunch of breaks, but not enough to actually lose the game. And I'd say the players are pretty even this round. But once again, and this was the same last round, Raph is threatening to roll over a much stronger board into next round. The pace of play has slowed down quite a bit here. I can't blame the players, but yeah, it does leave a bit of airtime here to talk about more general concepts. I think it's super notable that SlyNight completely dodged the shameful. Raph did obviously hit it last round. Um, it was a pretty impactful hit, actually. Okay, we see the last rival come down. So this is a big political swing. How big is it? 6, 9, 10, 14 defense. Okay, so this will be military. He was pre-playing the rival to get around the policy debate, and he's going to attempt to remove blockers and then pull back a character, and then take the conflict from Raph on his chin, and then swing in with quite a bit of skill on the political for his next attack. Chop a bear. The only thing I'll share about my personal life is that 2 hours into this stream, I had other shit I wish I was doing right now. But I'm gonna stick around and help you guys see through to the end of this one. But yeah, I think SlyNight is taking a line here to push on the political for his next attack. So he's definitely going to pull things in here. He'll take the win if it's offered to him. But like he can pull things in like the Whisperer and maybe Shizue and still be up on skill for this attack. And if his opponent decides to make him lose, he'll pull back a challenger. Yeah, Kaizen could throw a wrinkle into the plan. I think defending with Kaizen and Yoshi, the only way that isn't an overcommit is if you have a plan for getting Yoshi or Kaizen's duel off. I suppose Bonsai would do it. Bonsai could be countered by Bonsai though, of course. Uh, okay, so yeah, this is less of an overcommit, right? But this forces Sly to use one of his taps to pull Yoshi in. I guess with Bonsai though, the concern is you're on 2 honor. And with defending with 1, the concern is that there's still an admit defeat in the wild. Well, your opponent's on 0 fate, so not a problem. So first action is to draw with Yoshi. So hopefully there's something good in those 14 cards. I think we ran through most of the possibilities. I think he's probably digging for a Bonsai. Surely he's running 3. He's on 2 Bonsai actually, and he's used none of them. He's opted to use the charges earlier, so surely he has one. Yeah, I think a lot of the top players enjoy the untimed format. It allows them a different way of exercising their skills than they get in paper formats. We really don't have to emulate paper formats. It's sort of like the timed rules in paper are a compromise between the game rules and practicality. Most of the time, it's not an issue to have untimed games. I think the viewer experience for having an untimed match, it's just personal preference as far as whether you prefer the longer format or not. Both of these guys knew what they were getting into when they signed up for this. It definitely changes how you play some matchups, but the question is whether, like, which is the true version of the matchup? Is it the untimed version or the timed version? The time rules are sort of like extra rules that are in the rulebook, so you could make the argument that the untimed version of the matchup is the true version. It does make it a little bit harder to use the Jigoku online Discord League stuff to practice for paper tournaments, but chess clocks don't really emulate timed paper tournaments either. Personally, I think most of the time I don't mind it being untimed, but I think it can get a little bit excessive. It can get a little bit excessive when players take like 5, 6, 7 minutes to think about a single decision point. At least in this game, both players have only spent time thinking when there's legitimate things to think about. Okay. Taking away the test of skill, probably just because the other ones don't have a terribly huge impact here. Um, I think that was the right time to reverse the honor pressure. Um, could he have gotten away? No, that was the only way he could have gotten away with that. With the full 5 bid. Maybe the I, I don't know about well, I don't know about the test of skill actually. The bonsais are already in hand. The For Shame, the Fury, the Court Games, and the Noble Sack are all gonna matter in your upcoming conflicts. Yeah, Sly gets his third voice off against the bonsai, so I mean he wasn't gonna take the bonsai away, but now he wins this one unless Raph uses the For Shame. Okay, yeah, pulling in a challenger. Finally finding the tempo time to do that one. Man, it is such a huge deal for the hand to be revealed from... Aren't both used? Or no? No, both aren't used. Okay. Yeah, so now he's gonna... No, what is he gonna do? I mean, it matters for Kazin selection, but it's SlyNight's choice, and surely SlyNight knows which one. But, I mean, that's the only For Shame. Um, pull someone in. Pull someone out. 5 bid the Kazin duel. Swing in big. Absolutely have to 5 bid this. Okay, so looking at the hand relevant cards, Assassination became relevant. Bonsai, Court Games, Fury. Okay, so Sly can't break this turn. Um, hmm. Maybe he can break, especially if he attacks like this. We've got Fury. The court games can be soaked onto the rival. The assassination can kill the Whisperer, but he's still got a guest behind. He only needs to hit 7 up, and he does have a covert. Yeah, he can't set up the Noble Sack. I might just get... This is 5, 6, 7? It's only 5, 6 if... It's only 5, 6 if he dishonors the challenger. Which doesn't break, obviously. On that would be actually just 5 because of the box. But Sly has 8 cards, so those 8 cards are... Surely we can solve it. Looks like he does have a court games unless it's that one card. It's gonna be a bonsai too. I think, yeah, an admit defeat. Noble Sack. The court games is enough, I think. Not with the box tempo though, maybe. So we can assassinate. Yeah, so he's dead to the court games with this version, I think. He has no court games left, right? One. No, he does have one, right? Yeah, he does have one. Interesting. So he can set up the noble sack, but I don't think it's enough. No defense pass is fine. He's spending the court games here. So he's gonna, um, yeah, he's gonna noble sack the savvy politician for the rival with this line. But but with a solo defender, he's vulnerable to the court games box. So this was bad. This was very bad. This was bad in a lot of ways. Um, SlyNight's picking up Fate on this attack. He can admit defeat Kaizen. He can court games box Kaizen. That should be it. Yeah, it was flashy, but it didn't do anything. And with the guest here, like, what do you even do? You don't do anything. Yeah, that's a GG. So, SlyNight is now in the finals for season 5. If SlyNight wins the cup, he qualifies for the Invitational. It's his only chance of getting into the Invitational. I believe Raph was on the bubble, so Raph needed to win this tournament as well to qualify for the Invitational. Looks like Raph's a little bit sad after losing what was the longest game. Putting up a good fight, was behind most of the game. Looked like he might have an opportunity to turn it around, but the cards weren't there for him. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna see if I can line up another semifinal match for you guys for the LCQ, um, and stream that one for you guys. Might not be able to do full commentary, but I'll commentate on as much of it as I can. So I'll be back soon, and thanks for watching.